Welcome back to the railway. Today's video will be showing you the progress on the platforms. I've just been using the Mark III coach there with a pencil just to mark on these lines here as to where the coach is going to need to be, the platform needs to be moved, cut back just so where the coaches don't clash with them. So you can see there's faint lines around every corner of the platforms. So what I'll then do is I'll take off all of these pieces of paper, and I'll then put them on top of some foam boards that I have, and I'll then start cutting out the platform shapes, and I'll show you how that's going in a second. So these are the foam boards I was telling you about. So I'm going to be using these to fill up the platform area. So if I just move that out of the way, you can see here, this is one of the sheets. I think they're about 5mm thick. I'll double check that for you and I'll put it on the screen if it's not. But yeah, so what I've done is, as you can see, I've just taken off these two pieces off from the layout. And what I've then done is I put them on here, and you can see I've then transferred over this line here, that this was the very edge of the paper, not the line where the coach goes. Because what I'm going to do, just to double check I don't cut too much of this away, is I'm going to use some, I'm going to try and do it gradually and cut off gradually rather than cut it all off in one big go and there'll be a massive gap between the coaches and the platform. What I'll do is I'll gradually cut it away until I don't need to cut any more away. So then it's a nice smooth edge that's close to the platform consistently. So I'll show you how that goes in a bit. So there you can see all of the foam boards have now been cut out and placed in. So what I've done is they fit perfectly between the tracks, but then what I've done, because that then gives it a closer height to the coaches, I've then drawn on, I don't know if you can see there, a faint line on every single one. You can see I've started cutting it out on these two. But then what that's going to then do is I'll then use this as the width for the top of the platform, and I'll use this to then transfer that over. So if I just grab something else. So I'll be using these 1mm sheets of grey board, and what that's going to then do is, having this as this is then the perfect size for the coaches to go past without anything clashing. So what I'm then going to do is I'm going to use this as a template then to transfer over to then cut out, this will be the tarmac surface kind of look, or concrete, I'm not sure yet. This will be the surface of the platform. So what I'll then do is I'll then glue these to the underside of it, but after I've cut it back a bit, so then I can have a wall, which I have here, which then runs along the edge like that. So then the effect I'll then have is I'll have a bottom layer that's just like filler, and then I'll have a layer that then has the edge of the platform on it like that, and then it will then have the grey board on top as the final layer. So that's my plan of how it's going to go. I'll just get on with doing that and I'll show you how it goes. I just realised I didn't actually show you how I got these lines on in the first place. Now what I used was a Mark III coach, so I just put it into shot. And instead of, because when I did measurements before, what I've done is I've had the pencil like this, but as you can see, it gives it quite a gap. So what I did this time was kind of held the pencil edge, if you can see there, just try and zoom in, kind of so it is flush with the coach, like that. And then when it's then going around, it then has a much closer line, as you can see there. But yes, that's how I got all those lines drawn on. I've then checked it with my pendolino over there with the very front end of it, and it doesn't have anywhere that needs well, there's a little bit over here that needs a bit of adjustment with where the line's drawn on, but I can get to that a bit later on. But as I said, I don't want to cut too much away, so I'll cut off the least I need first, and then if I need to cut off more, I can cut off more later on. But anyway, so that's how I got those lines drawn on. As you can see here, I've rather stormed on a bit. I have now got the island platform mostly done. So what I did was, as I said, I had these lines on the foam drawn on. What I then did was I cut the excess foam off and then used the foam as a template for the top surface, which I used 1mm grey board. Once I had then got this grey board cut to the size I needed, I then, if I just move this way around, there we go, I then cut the foam another 2mm on each side to then give it a step, as you can see there. So I did that on both sides all the way along, and I've then added these 2 sections on either end as the ramps down, and you can see I've just propped it up so it's the correct height using these offcuts of foam, and it then keeps it very strong and sturdy. I mean, you can see the length of this is, I think, just over 1 metre. You can see it's not bending at all, so that's really nice and sturdy. So my plan for the surface of the platforms is I'm going to use, I think it's the Scale Model Scenery website. They do tarmac sheets you can print off on printer paper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to eventually, I'll use that and cover the platform in that, so then it will hide up any of these join lines that you can see. So there's one there, one there, one there, and one there. But yes, those will all be covered up, so that's not too much of a problem. So what I need to do now is just decide where the retaining wall will go along here, because then I'll need to make the platform so it kind of slots into the retaining wall. So I'll just start doing that and jotting that out, and I'll show you how that's going. As you can see, I've now cut out this bit of platform, so it's got the foam underneath it. I've then got the 2 layers of foam, so this is the height that the platform will be at. I've done this so I can then cut out all of these notches for the retaining walls to slot in, because the retaining walls, oh, if I get that to stand up straight, there we go. As you can see, it's the triangular shape, so it gradually tapers in towards the top. So what I needed to do was, because the platform wasn't going to be the width at the bottom here, it was going to be the width it would be somewhere up here. And if I measured the platform as the width it would be down here as to how much I cut away, there would be a huge gap. So if I just place that in kind of where it's going, just give me a second to try and get that in. There we go. So this is how it slots in as it's supposed to, so you can see all of the edges are flush. If I hadn't measured the platform like that, I would have ended up with gaps that are quite substantially bigger than that. So I just push that out a bit more. So you can see that I would have ended up with some gaps that were quite big. So what I did was I used these 2 pieces of offcut, and I put them inside like that to represent the height, and then used a small ruler to go in between the gap and measure the distance that it would stick, that the platform would need to slot into the retaining wall. So what I kind of did was measured it from the back wall outwards. So the back wall was where all the platform was cut. So the back wall in there is this line here, going along there. And then all of the notches in were then shortened out to what they would have been. And I did all of them a bit shorter than they needed to be. So then if I needed to, I could cut more off, because I can't put more on after I've cut it off. Otherwise I'd have to redo the entire section. So I'll show you how that looks with all the retaining walls on, and I'll show you what it looks like in situ. So there is all of the retaining walls slotted into the platform, as you can see there. And you can see what I mean, that then I've got all of these notches cut out so the platform goes right up into all of the gaps. Now, I'm then going to be, as I said, covering the platforms with the printer paper with the tarmac surface on. So any gaps that you can see, like here, there's a bit of a gap in that corner. Any gaps like that, I'm going to try and cover over with that so you can't see it as much. I'm also going to try and blend this area here in a bit more. As you can see, there's a little bit of a gap at this end and a little bit of a gap where it joins across. So what I'm going to try and do is I'll try and blend that in a bit more when I do that. But in the meantime, this just gives a nice idea as to how the platform looks with the retaining wall there. And I'll try and get this to sit in situ so you can see what it looks like with the retaining wall there. There we go. So I got the retaining wall with the platform into place. It took me quite a while trying to get all the pieces to stay where they should be. But anyway, so it gives you a nice view of how the platform then runs along and then narrows off, and then this will be the end of the platform, so there'll be some sort of safety railing here, maybe some steps down for workers to get to the ground level. But yes, that just, as you can see, there's a little bit of a bump there, but that's because it's just not glued down, it's just all placed in. So then there'll be a bit of foam that will go at the back over here, so that will be this piece of foam here, just needs to be cut down. So that will then fill in that gap over there. I'm thinking about replacing this bridge. I'll speak to you more about that in another video. As this video I am focusing purely on the platforms. But so the next thing I'm going to do, now that I have the top level of the grey board now cut for this platform, what I'm going to do is then do the rest of it over here. As you can see, I've put sellotape across, so then this stays as one section, so it's easier to get a nice join going across. And then I'll do another join that goes across here, but I won't use any sellotape for the foam just yet, because it will be then the whole length, otherwise will be all connected, which I don't want to do until the final stage like I did with this one. But then once I have then got the grey board cut for everything, what I will then do is I will cut the layer of foam that you can see here. I'll cut that back by 2 or 3 millimeters, so it gives it an overhang similar to this one. And then once that's done, I'll then start with this platform over here. I've had a bit more time to think about the location and placement of this building. I've had some people suggesting that I should have it this way around, so it's parallel to the tracks. Personally, I think I do prefer how it looks with it being this way around, because you can actually see all the nice detail at the front of the building. And also the fact that then it almost looks like a Severn Valley Railway at Kidderminster. You have the lines going into the station kind of like this, and then you've got the main station building. I know you've got a big canopy around it, but it's that sort of face on angle, so I thought that'd be quite fun and nice having it at that sort of an angle. But then as well, you can then think that then there'll be a fence that will carry on along here and cut off this section of track. But then I can have it as well, so as well as selling tickets for the railway, you can imagine that this is where you would then pay for the parking, for the car park area as well. So that's, I think, where I'm going to keep the station building. But then I might cut this section at the back down a bit, because I've moved it slightly closer. Because when I was originally cutting these bits of foam board, I had it right so it is at the back out here. But I think it would look better if it's more like here, because that is a very, very big gap going across. So I think having it placed about there, I think, is quite nice. So it gives a nice gap, so you've got loads of space there for people to walk through. But yeah, so I'll just get carrying on with getting those surfaces of the platform cut out, and I'll show you how that's going in a bit. So here we are. As you can see, I've now got a lot more of the first platform done. So you can see I had got it just up to here. I've now gone and done all of this section along here. All I've got left to do is this small section here. Now I'm going to do it so it finishes parallel with the road here. So then it'll have like a fence going around the outside of the platform like that, so it won't have a ramp going down. But it'll then be like some pavement or something like underneath the platform along here, maybe, going along like that. So I'll just get that bit sorted, and then I'll start working on this platform here. So as you'll see, I've done a lot more of the platform now. I had recorded a section yesterday, but it appears that I didn't press the record button. I should have guessed I wouldn't have done something like that with it being April Fool's yesterday, but let's just ignore that ever happened. So what I was going to show you in the clip I was supposed to be taking yesterday was all of these pieces underneath that you see there. These are all just offcuts. I wanted to use the offcuts to help raise the platform to the right level rather than cutting a whole new sheet, because I thought it'd be quite a waste doing that. So the way I've done it, as you can see, is just using some odd offcut bits just to then get it to the right height. And as you'll see from, I've then done it with that side as well. But the way I've got it is so that these then, I can have them separate if I want to, or I can glue them together. But you can see that they then slot together like that. And you wouldn't be able to tell that those are two separate removable pieces. So what I'm thinking I might do is keep that the way it is and have it removable, on the fact that if I ever need to move something round, that then gives me an easy way of separating the two rather than having it as one very long bit to try and move like the middle platform. But anyway, while the other section I was tried to record yesterday but obviously didn't, was I have now cut the edge off of this platform here. So what that now means is I can now use this as the template for the grey board surface, and then once that's done, I'll then cut off 2 mil from each side next to a rail, so then it steps it in like I've done with these these 3 tracks there. So I'll just start getting that platform done with its grey board top, and I'll show you how that's going now.
I just thought I would show you some of the process that I used to make the surface of the platform. So I've already shown you I use this 1mm thick grey board. Now what I do, especially when I've got these joins here and here, is because this central section is an A4 sheet thick, I do not have the A4 sheet directly over that. What I try to do is do it so it's kind of over the middle of a join. So you can see that join there. What I try and do is have it over it like that. So then it will help strengthen the platform, and I'll then do the same. I'll move that piece. And I'll then do the same on this side, so then it overhangs. Another thing that I do as well is I check on the tracks to see if there's any points where the coaches are perfectly straight. Now I've just taken the platform over and checked, and between this line here and this line here, the platform is going to need to be perfectly straight. So what I will then do is try and match it up so that that edge stays uncut and straight like that. So then it leaves it a nice straight edge, so it's not wobbly or anything like that. So I'll just start cutting this and turn it over, and I'll show you how I do it. So I've turned the platform upside down, and I've just drawn these lines around the edge of it, transferring it onto the grey board. So as you can see there, that now gives me the template that I need to then cut out, which will then cover this middle section here. So I'll just cut that out and I'll show you how that fits on. So as you can see, I've now cut out this section of the platform. So this will now go on top of the foam, but what I'll do before I do that is I'll then cut the other three sections, of the platform that need to be done. So I'll just get that done and I'll show you how that goes. So that's taken me a bit of time, but there we go. I've finally now got all of the top level for the platform surface all done. So all I need to do now is to take all that off, and all I need to do is cut 2mm off the edge of each track facing platform side. So I don't need to do it on this one because there's no track on this side, but I'm going to do it on this one, the outside of that one, and I'll do it on this one as well, just in case I change my mind as to how that one's going to go around. Because I'm thinking of, as I've said before, having an old rusted track here, just so it looks like this used to be a platform, but they've disused it. So I'll treat this side the same as I would that side, as cutting it back and stepping it in like the other side of the platform. So I'll get on with doing that and I'll show you how that goes. Well, it's been a couple of days since the last section of footage you would have seen. Since then, I have now indeed cut the 2mm off of each side of the foam that's underneath the grey board, and I have then also glued the grey board onto the foam and then raised it up to the platform level as the same as the other platforms. So after a good 3 or 4 weeks of work, the station area has finally been redesigned. So as you can see, it then gives me a nice long platform, so I can fit in, as you can see, a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coach HST unit with the power car and with the 2 power cars on the end as well. And I can just about fit in 8 cars of my Pendolino set. But in the outside, I can fit the full 11 coaches in between the points. So yeah, I'm incredibly happy with how it has turned out. The angles going through the station are much better than I could have hoped. I was a bit worried as well with the platforms, with it being curved platforms, that I was going to have some quite big gaps, but I took my time with it, and as you can see, I have very, very small gaps. There's a little bit here that might need to be cut away a little bit, because as you can see, it gets very close to the Mark III coaches there, and I don't want any of my steam engines fouling their valve gear, piston rods on the outside of the platform. So any small bits like that I'll do an off screen, so I'll test around every single loco to make sure each platform, every loco fits every platform basically, so I don't have to keep certain ones off of certain lines. But so anyway, that will be the end of today's video. I hope you've enjoyed the video and series of videos relating to the redevelopment of the station. If you like how the new station has turned out, let me know down in the comments section below. If there's anything you would change about the station layout, again, just let me know down in the comments section below. Any advice or different ideas is always very welcome. So thank you for watching. I'll just get into a running session now, with the camera mostly focusing on the station area with trains entering and leaving. So thank you for watching today's video, and I'll see you in the next one. Thank you for watching. Goodbye.